And of course, breaking news coming in at top of 5 p.m. The Supreme Court has stayed the execution of the death sentence of Akshay and Vinay, both convicts in the infamous December 16 gang rape case. Earlier, the Supreme Court had stayed the execution of two other convicts, Mukesh and Pawan. Remember, in March, the Delhi High Court had confirmed the death sentence of all the four men. That's Mukesh, Vinay Sharma, Pawan and Akshay Thakur, calling the crime, premeditated and callous. Remember, 23-year-old student and her male friend were attacked by 6 men on the night of December 16, 2012 after they got on a private bus while going home from the cinema. The young woman died of the horrific injuries 13 days later. And in our studios at this point in time, we have the defense lawyer in that particular case that we are talking about. Mr. A.P. Singh is with us. We also have social activist Sunita Godara, and from Mumbai joining us live is a special public prosecutor and senior lawyer Mr. Ujjwal Nikam. Thank you very much for joining us on this big story that we're discussing here this evening. Mr. A.P. Singh, मैं आपके पास आऊंगी. सबसे पहले आप अभी कोर्ट में ही थे. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्या कहा? एक डिसीजन देने के अलावा उन्होंने अभी एग्जीक्यूशन पर स्टे लगाई है. ऐसा क्यों?
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया के यहाँ सुनवाई थी हमारी एसएलपी पर. उसमें उन्होंने अच्छी तरह सुना, डीपली सुना और समझा उसको क्या क्या खामियां रही हैं इन्वेस्टिगेशन से लेकर अभी तक. और उसके बाद ही, सुनने के बाद, गहन सुनवाई के बाद ही, डबल बेंच थी, डबल बेंच सुनवाई कर रही. तो दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने जो डेथ सेंटेंस का जजमेंट दिया था उसको स्टे कर दिया है टिल द फाइनल आर्गूमेंट. फाइनल जजमेंट जब तक नहीं आएगा तब तक के लिए स्टे कर दी गई है दोनों की, अक्षय कुमार सिंह और विनय शर्मा.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने आपकी आर्ग्यूमेंट में क्या फर्क है जो आपने दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट में कहा था? बिकॉज दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने बोल दिया था कि इफ दिस इज नॉट द रेयरेस्ट ऑफ रेयरेस्ट क्राइम्स देन व्हाट इज?
नहीं, देखिए, न्याय का सबसे बड़ा मंदिर है सुप्रीम कोर्ट. तो हम न्याय के सबसे बड़े मंदिर में जब अपनी दरख्वास्त अर्जी रखते हैं, एसएलपी को रखते हैं, उसके माध्यम से हमारी बात को सुनने का उन्हें हक है, हमें अधिकार है अपनी बात को सुनाने का. और वो सुनते और देखते हैं, क्योंकि इस केस में बहुत खामियां रहीं. पहली बात, ये केस टोटली मीडिया ट्रायल हुआ, जो और केस हो सकते हैं लेकिन और केस नहीं होते हैं. ये है क्योंकि इनके पास धनबल नहीं था, जनबल नहीं था, बाहुबल नहीं था. जिस देश की सबसे बड़ी कमी है, इस कानून की सबसे बड़ी कमी है, जिस व्यक्ति के पास धनबल नहीं है, जनबल नहीं है, बाहुबल नहीं है, उसके लिए कानून अलग हो जाते हैं. और जिसके पास धनबल और जनबल और बाहुबल है, उसके लिए कानून दूसरी तरह हो जाते हैं. इस बात को ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया ने सुना है, समझा है और उसी को मद्देनजर रखते हुए इसको फैसला दिया है. हमारी बेल एप्लीकेशन भी थी, उसको पेंडिंग किया है उन्होंने, उसको आगे सुनवाई के लिए रखा है, उसको सुनेंगे.
It's interesting what you say, Mr. A.P. Singh, because we're in a country where we even allowed one of the 10 gunmen in the 2611 attack cases a trial in a court of the land. But we'll widen up that debate now. Women and Child Development Minister Maneka Gandhi reignited the debate on lowering the age of juvenile criminals from 18 to 16 years so that they can be tried at par with adults, especially in cases of serious crimes. Previous attempts to try and amend the Juvenile Justice Act has triggered vociferous protests from child rights activists. Those in favor of the proposal argue that social changes have caused children to mature faster than when the laws were framed. However, those against the changes say that juveniles are by definition not mature enough to understand the impact of their actions. Activists say that harsher punishments for specific crimes would be unfair and arbitrary. However, those punishing for amendment say that rapes and murders should be treated as a separate category under the Act. The question now is it time to revisit the Juvenile Justice Act? Maneka Gandhi has reignited that debate today, even as juvenile crimes and their sheer brutality rise. Will punishment harden them? And can Indian reform homes provide the right environment to any of these children? Let's cut across live now to Mr. Ujjwal Nikam, who's joining us live from Mumbai. Mr. Nikam, you have made your arguments with regard to the Shakti Mills gang rape case, in which there is one accused and the proceedings are still on. What is your take? Does India need to repeal the law, or do we need to take the middle path?
See, by general, I won't say that the age limit should be lowered down. But in certain cases, where it is found that a particular crime has been committed by a juvenile with the adult person, and it is a pre-planned and heinous crime, then certainly one has to consider whether it would be advisable to extend the benefit of the Juvenile Justice Act to such a person who is mentally matured, psychologically matured, and he knows everything about the consequences of that act. So I think this time now has come that we have to make certain radical changes with certain riders in the law. But one thing is very clear, that we can't jump to a conclusion that yes, juvenile's age should be relaxed by a particular age.
Okay.
But if it is proved that certain crimes are with pre-plan and with conspiring with the adult accused person, then certainly the benefit cannot be extended to such juvenile.
So what you're suggesting, what you appear to be suggesting, is that the decision should be taken on a case-to-case basis. Ms. Sunita Gudara, you're a social activist. Why is that not acceptable?
Age?
Taking a decision on a case-to-case basis.
See, now what Mrs. Menka has said, at least she is showing in a verbal conversation, she is showing little bit of political will. But whether it will become a law or not, it's time to, we have to see that time to come. But the thing is, situation will change because there is no rule of law in this country. First of all, everybody knows that. So situation will change only when we have proper laws, 21st century contemporary laws. Now puberty period is also lowering down, and adolescence age has also gone down.
Right.
So when the person who's a child, so-called child, 18 years old, and if he is committing rape or murder, so it has to be the punishment should be proportionate to the gravity of crime, and we should leave it to the judge, magistrate, to decide whether it was what gravity or what quantum of crime the person has made, because now the age is going to be misused. Earlier also in villages, when they have family disputes, they bring the child in front.
Right.
In murder cases, in other disputes, and especially in rapes, because the rapist who is say 17 years old or 17 and a half years old, when he goes to the jail and he comes out, there is no record. We don't even know who was that person.
Exactly.
And then they make peer groups, and then they teach them sometimes, because there is no there is no change in mindset.
Absolutely.
So both things have to go together. Change in law and change in mindset also.
मिस्टर सिंह, ये लागू क्यों नहीं हो सकता हमारी कंट्री में? एक मिडिल पाथ फॉलो करें हम कि हम केस टू केस डिसाइड करें कि किसको हमें जुवेनाइल एक्ट के अंदर ट्राई करना चाहिए और किसको एक हु वी शुड ट्रीट एज एन अडल्ट.
देखिए, हमारे देश में बचपन बचाओ आंदोलन बड़ी तेजी से चला, और आपको सोचना पड़ेगा इस बारे में कि क्या परिस्थितियां रही थी कि जब भारत देश में बचपन बचाओ आंदोलन चलाना पड़ा. इसका मतलब हमारा कहीं ना कहीं बचपन भटक रहा था. हमारा देश केवल मेट्रो सिटी में नहीं बसता है. मैं मानता हूं मेट्रो सिटी के बच्चों की लाइफ स्टाइल अलग होता है, लेकिन हमारा देश गुवाहाटी से चौपाटी और कन्याकुमारी से कश्मीर तक बसता है. तो ग्रामीण परिवेश, सुदूर ग्रामीण परिवेश, जहां आज भी शिक्षा उपलब्ध नहीं, जहां आज स्कूल नहीं है, लाइट नहीं, बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कुछ नहीं है, तो वहां आप बच्चे को क्या समझते हैं? जहां मोबाइल की तो बात छोड़िए, चार्जर नहीं है, बिजली नहीं है, तो मोबाइल क्या होगा? तो इस तरह से वो उनकी एज को अगर कानून आप बनाते हैं इस संबंध में, तो वो भी इफेक्ट करेंगे. आपको मेट्रो सिटी के लिए अलग सोचना पड़ेगा, वहां के लिए अलग सोचना पड़ेगा, या आपको डिफरेंस रखना पड़ेगा. और मुझे बड़े दुख के साथ कहना पड़ रहा है किस तरह से महिला एवं बाल विकास मंत्री, जिन्हें बच्चों के विकास की बात कही गई थी, दी गई थी, उन्हें जिम्मेदारी सौंपी गई भारत सरकार ने, और उन्होंने ऐसी बात कही, बच्चों के ही अगेंस्ट बात कही, बच्चों के अगेंस्ट. ये मुझे बड़ा दुख है, और मुझे लगता है शायद उनका ये कहने के पीछे कारण रहा है, क्योंकि मैं मेनका गांधी जी को 87, 87, 88 में वो संजय गांधी विचार मंच उन्होंने बनाया था, संजय गांधी विचार मंच बनाया था, और उसको आंदोलन को लेके वो शाहजहांपुर पहुंची थी. मेरा होम नेटिव प्लेस है शाहजहांपुर, उत्तर प्रदेश में. और जब उस समय पहुंची थी तो वहां गेस्ट हाउस में अरेंजमेंट था उनका. मेरे फादर ने गेस्ट हाउस में अरेंजमेंट कराया था. मिस्टर अकबर में डंपी और मिस्टर पालीवाल, जो उत्तर प्रदेश के संजय गांधी विचार मंच के अध्यक्ष थे, वो भी साथ थे. तो नॉन वेज का अरेंजमेंट उन्होंने कह के कराया था. तो जो नॉन वेज अरेंजमेंट करवाएंगी, और वहां हमने सर्व किया था, हम नॉन वेज नहीं थे, हमारी फैमिली, लेकिन अतिथि देवो भव, एक गेस्ट है, हमारा अतिथि है, इसके लिए मेरे फादर ने बाहर से अरेंजमेंट करवा के वहां परोसा हाथ से. तो आज मुझे लगा कि उनके अंदर जो नॉन वेज का कारण रहा है, ये बच्चों के प्रति और इस तरह के प्रति लोगों के लिए दुर्भावनापूर्ण है, और उन्हें बाल विकास मंत्री होने के नाते बच्चों की उम्र के सवाल पर, जबकि ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बेंच ने इस मामले को रखा हुआ है, डॉक्टर सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी की पिटीशन पर यह फैसला रखा भी रखा गया है, पेंडिंग है कि उनकी भावनाओं को देखा जाए, अपराध के उस पर देखा जाए किस तरह का अपराध है, इसको देख के उम्र देखी जाए और पूरे भारत देश के सर्वे किया जाए इस तरह के बच्चों का, कुछ क्वेश्चनरी बनाई जाए कि उनके क्या उत्तर होते हैं, उससे पता चलेगा कि बच्चों का किस तरह से अलग-अलग।
Absolutely. The political debate is not new. Remember, the Congress government has tried it, and now there is a new promise from the Women and Child Development Minister Menka Gandhi to make a change in that law. Let's listen into whether or not this is politically feasible.
व्यक्तिगत उसका अपना व्यू हो सकता है, हालांकि वो मंत्री हैं, लेकिन जब ये मामला पार्लियामेंट में आएगा और दोनों सदन में आएगा तो इसके ऊपर बहस होनी चाहिए और उसके बाद कोई निर्णय होना चाहिए।
Laws are not made out of emotional and sentimental reactions to something unpleasant that may be happening in society. Otherwise, you would be shooting and killing people all around, because there are murderers and people causing mayhem and people creating an enormous amount of disquiet in society. The issue is, and we examined this when I was in government, we examined all these issues. What does the world believe? What does the popular sense in India indicate to us? What do the experts say? And what do people who deal with these specific crimes, including people who are from the police, what do they have? What is their opinion? Now we got something from late Chief Justice Verma, and we followed the line given by him. And in that committee, as you know, Chief Justice Leela Seth was also there, and Mr. Gopal Subramaniam were also there. They gave some indications, and we followed those, and we've made the new law.
Now, let's also talk about whether or not, Sunita, the problem here is not the Juvenile Justice Act, but the fact that we haven't been able to deal with or handle our reform systems efficiently. Right. Is that the root problem?
Yes, that is the root problem. We don't have reforms in judiciary, in police administration, everywhere the system, the institutions, so-called institutions are deteriorating. So we have to make proper changes. Overhauling is required, and then only we can change the society, we can change the laws. Everywhere we need the changes.
But how do we go about it? Because there have been numerous reports that say that they're in a deplorable state.
I just give you one example for criminals. See, whenever anybody is doing any crime, there should be punishment, there should be implementation of law, which in our country is lacking. The same person, the moment he is going boarding the plane and just landing in Singapore or Dubai, the mindset changes. Why? Because there is fear of law and there is fear of punishment. So unless we have this fear of law and fear of punishment, mindset will not change. So the main thing is parents, school, public, police, everyone has to go hand in hand, and they should work towards changing the society, and plus implementation of laws and deterrent punishment when it is a crime. And like I also agree, means all children are not criminals, but when there is rape or murder, that time it should be left to the judge.
That's exactly the point. The point that you're talking about is something that Varun Gandhi has tweeted about. He says regarding the Juvenile Justice Act, he says if you are old enough to rape, then you're old enough to be tried as an adult in a court of law. Mr. Ujjwal Nikam, is that something you agree with?
Certainly I do agree, because I have come across the cases wherein certain terrorists like Ajmal Kassab, on the day of opening of the case, had taken a defense that I am juvenile and so I cannot be tried by this court.
But we're talking specifically about rape cases here, Mr. Nikam. We're talking specifically of rape cases.
Yes, I do. Yes, I totally in agreement that in rape case, if it is found that a particular offense of rape has been committed after previous planning, involving maximum brutality, cruelty, causing the death, then in such case certainly the age factor, that is the benefit of the juvenile, that benevolent provision, that should not be extended to such person. But of course it is not only for the court, but we will require to make such provision in law. Unless we will make a specific provision in law, the court can't act upon it. So we have to make firstly specific provision in law. Secondly, we had to find out whether that case doesn't come within the purview so that benefit can be extended to juvenile. And thirdly, the court has to record the finding that particular offense of rape or murder thereby has been committed after previous planning involving brutality, cruelty, etc. So all these problems are interconnected, but certainly it has the time come to change certain legal provision.
It remains to be seen whether or not the government really is going to take the parliament route and make a change in that particular act. If Maneka Gandhi's statement is anything to go by, she does seem determined to bring about a change in the Juvenile Justice Act. Mr. Nikam, Mr. AP Singh and Ms. Sunita, thank you very much for coming here and talking to us about this and giving us your opinions on this raging debate.